Thank you very much. A long title with short list of results, I have to admit, but I intend to diverge a bit from the paper and use Kharkiv, the city of Kharkiv and the region of Kharkiv, to initiate a discussion on Ukraine as a whole. And I think it connects both to the discussion we had yesterday about the consequences of the Maidan in Ukraine and also to the Donbass discussion. I'm very happy to be able to speak after a Dnipropetrovsk discussion, because of course these two regions connect. Not only is it so that that Kharkivites, when they are asked, they usually identify quite strongly with Dnipropetrovsk. It is in the top 5 of usually of the cities they identify with, but also the things, some of the things that we heard about the Soviet structuring of Dnipropetrovsk has a lot to do with the history of Kharkiv, which I'm not really going to go into, but it's good to keep at the back of my head. I'm also thankful to Dominic for postponing this seminar until after the elections, because of course the elections, if you look at the short time frame since the start of Maidan and trying to do research on this, every event like this becomes very important. I can't really say that the elections necessarily made the picture clearer, but at least it gave us more questions to discuss when it comes to Kharkiv. Why discuss? This is not a discussion of the identity of Kharkiv per se, but rather the perceived identity of Kharkiv among its citizens. Why is this even important? I think it is important not only because Kharkivites tend to discuss this question quite a lot themselves. There's quite a lot written on this topic, and also in the public space you can see that Kharkiv kind of implicitly possesses some kind of separate identity that people are generally proud of. The other reason is that the identification of Kharkiv's citizens is an important part of what is going on now in Ukraine and arguably in Europe as well. That is the willingness of the potential willingness of Kharkivites to integrate into the Eurasia project or to become proper and well-participating citizens in the Ukrainian state. Although the identity of Kharkiv has been discussed a lot, there is no clear definition of what Kharkiv's identity consists of, and that is, some authors have even argued that there is no stable identity of Kharkiv. It keeps changing, which makes this period extra interesting, of course. But there are nevertheless a couple of traits in the history since the mid-17th century that have contributed to what most Kharkivites would subscribe to as part of the city's identity. One of them is from the foundation by Cossacks in the wake of the Khmelnytsky uprising. The city was run in a Cossack fashion, although it was considered part of the Russian Empire as a sort of bulwark, a frontier against the people on the steppes. So in this sense, two parts of Kharkiv's identity were created. It was the borderland identity, which is very strong today, since of course the Russian border is only 40 kilometers away from Kharkiv city, and it was also the freeland identity, the Slobozhanshina, which this area is called, that also incorporates parts of the regions on the Russian side of the border. Then the city developed. It got a university after Catherine's reforms. The free status was abolished. The university image of Kharkiv is very strong as a city of learning. It's also a city of research, which has to do with the fact that it became very quickly industrialized in the end of the 19th century with the arrival of the railway. And both these images were reinforced during the Soviet time when, for Kharkiv, it was a very interesting period in 1919 when it was it became the first capital of Soviet Ukraine and remained in this way until 1934. And it coincided with the early years of the Soviet power, where you had nationalization or campaign, which made at least nominally Kharkiv a really Ukrainian capital. But today this is problematic for several reasons, and especially I think because of this capital being constructed as a sort of counter image to Western Ukraine and to Kiev, where there were opposing forces to the Bolsheviks. So it is, in a way, this capital image is much a Soviet image. If you look at the city and the region, there are big differences. The region is mainly Ukrainian-speaking. The city is, to a very large extent, Russian-speaking. It is also very segregated in terms of, even within the city, you've had large migration streams. There are big socioeconomic differences within the city. And you can also see these differences in voting patterns. And if you look in general at Kharkiv, the political situation in Kharkiv, generally, it is a politically inactive population in both the oblast and especially in the city. At least when it comes to voting. I should perhaps qualify this statement a little bit, because at the same time, Kharkiv has created the origins of two phenomena which are very important in the Donbas uprising or Donbas war, originated in Kharkiv. And the one is the Andrei Biletsky, who reconstructed the sort of, when the Svoboda party was created, the more radical streams of that party were actually on national level, were abolished, but they were reinvigorated in Kharkiv and subsequently became what would actually be the Azov battalion, which Biletsky is still leading. And now Biletsky is even in parliament, since he managed on Sunday to be voted in the Kiev district. The other person important in this case is Sergei Zhilin, who is one of the is the founder of this Oplot, which is usually referred to as a fight club, but it is much more in Kharkiv. And he describes himself as a pro-Soviet person. That is, he believes that it's not in a nostalgic sense, but he's looking forward to the restoration of the Soviet identity. And this comes from both his parents working, in fact, in one of the military industries in Kharkiv. But the reason it's important is that this is also, he set up branches of this organization in the other southeastern cities of Ukraine, including Donetsk, which was then, now has become, the members of those organizations have become very important figures in the Donetsk People's Republic. For example, Prime Minister Zakharchenko, so-called Prime Minister Zakharchenko. So there was a Euromaidan movement in Kharkiv. Many people in Kiev don't recognize this, but it was quite substantial. It started out with 15 people, but it grew into several thousands after a while. And they were very committed, and I would argue for one special reason. They had much more it was much more at stake. Because unlike in Kiev, I think the Kharkiv Euromaidan always realized that there is a threat of external interference all the time. You know, if we say that the Euromaidan consisted of two elements, it was the revolution of dignity. I mean, getting to decide your own future, and getting rid of the external threat and making your own decisions internationally. In both these instances, the leadership in the Kharkiv region was standing in the way, so to speak, especially Governor Dobkin and Mayor Kernes in the city, who were strong sort of images for both of these problems. In that sense, from the view of the Kharkiv Euromaidan has failed. At least you can argue that. Of course, things are changing in the country. There is a new Oblast governor who is very close to the current government in Kiev, but Kernes is still in place nominally, and the external threat, has rather become greater. And so, from the view of the Euromaidan, the city of Kharkiv has turned from a borderland into a frontier city, and this is very clear. It was housing the anti-terror operation, and it has taken the bulk of the internally displaced people from Donbass. So this is very strong. Now, I just want to finish saying something about anti-Maidan, which I didn't actually study. Whatever we call it, anti-Maidan, pro-Russian, it is an important movement in Kharkiv, of course. Currently, it's not visible because everything you see in the city is pro-unity. But I think it's a good opportunity to kick off the next discussion, in fact, because what anti-Maidan is, or supporters of anti-Maidan, is a very interesting discussion in Kharkiv, because there is the strong heritage of the Party of Regions still in place, which probably contributes to the fact that, and here we come back to the elections of Sunday, where Kharkiv became a stronghold, really, of the opposition bloc, which inherited the Party of Regions, more or less. And there is also a strong perception, I think, that this Kharkivite identity, whatever it is not included in Kiev's government policies. I think Mikhail Minakov put it yesterday, that it's exclusive, the new government is exclusive to the Soviet identity. And whatever we mean by Soviet identity, that is a strong part of the Kharkiv situation. So I think I'll finish with that. Thank you.
Fantastic.